Today, South Korea's new president, Lee Jae-myung, met with President Trump, and it's another bad day for criminals. The president of Law and Order just signed another executive order to clean up our streets. This is DC Dispatch. I'm your host, Christy Lee. Coming up, Lindell TV's Carrie Castronova is joining to detail the latest in those new events today. But first, the FBI believes former Trump National Security Advisor John Bolton should face charges for allegedly emailing highly sensitive classified docs through a private server. It sounds familiar to Hillary Clinton. According to the New York Post, high-ranking FBI officials are questioning why the Biden administration shelved the case, with Trump's Justice Department now digging into whether that decision was politically motivated. Joining to discuss this and much more is General Michael Flynn, retired U.S. Army, former National Security Advisor, and co-author of The Citizen's Guide to Fifth-Generation Warfare. With decades of intelligence and combat experience, he is here to break down the latest. General Flynn, thank you so much for making it today. I'm so excited to have you. Man, a lot's happened since we last spoke.
And thanks for being patient too, Christy, and for everything that you're doing for your great audience and for the country, honestly. I mean, yeah, wow, what a busy day. I'm actually in Washington, D.C. I come up here periodically to just hold some meetings and to stay engaged in everything going on with what the Trump administration is trying to do here. Very, very important times. And what you just outlined there with John Bolton, former national security advisor to President Trump, as well as the former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. So he's had some pretty significant duties and responsibilities in his certainly his government career. If they determine that what the allegations are to be true, and I can't imagine that the FBI is doing this because this is not a weaponized FBI like it was under Obama or under Biden. So, and then of course today, President Lee, the newly elected president of South Korea, is here. And for those that are paying attention, President Trump put out a very strong statement this morning on Truth Social, which he's been very transparent about. And in this case, we've got let's just say roughly 25,000 troops over in the Republic of South Korea, and they've been there since really the end of the Korean War for the most part. And we pay a giant share of the bill. And the Republic of Korea is, they're one of the top 10 economies in the world, and they're really getting away with not having to pay for all of the presence of all these military forces that are over there for us to provide them security. So I think Trump is right to do that, and he raised that same issue when he was in his first administration. He's just making sure that this new president understands that, President Lee, who does have socialist tendencies. So I think we're going to have to watch to see how this particular relationship plays out, because the alignment by this new administration in the Republic of Korea toward China is much stronger than the previous administration. And this guy has also jailed the previous president that he just defeated. So anyway, there's a lot going on. That's part of the conversation that Trump is going to have with President Lee. But back to John Bolton and all these investigations. I mean, there's going to be.
Actually, first thing I want to ask about that, General Flynn, is it's maddening enough for me to watch legacy media and how they're acting so shocked and appalled that this could be happening. And here's your evidence that we're an authoritarian government and weaponization. It's maddening enough for me, but for someone who was persecuted, had the weight of government weaponized against you, it has to be soul-sucking to watch this.
Yeah, I mean, as we're going through this, because this is and Lee Smith, a good friend of mine who you might know, Lee Smith wrote a book called The Permanent Coup. Okay, The Permanent Coup. That's what we are going through. Okay, there was an attempted coup after the 2016 election. There was an actual coup in 2020 where they took over our government and they put they put a Otto Penn Joe, Uncle Joe, in the presidency for 4 years. And that evidence is going to come out in spades, believe me. And then they really attempted it again in 2024. And even that evidence will come out at a certain point in time to show how, how there's some really very smart people who were able to overcome the rig again. Like Trump says, he likes to say sometimes, too big to rig. So yeah, there's a lot of soul searching for all Americans right now as to what is going on in our country, what are we going through, and what we're going through is an infiltration by, you can call it whatever ism you want, but a group of people that are anti-American, that want to see our country join the globalist movement that is ongoing. It's all over Europe right now. Canada is one of the worst, closest neighbors. Scheinbaum in Mexico is right there aligned with them. People that down Luna down in Brazil. So there's a globalist body of nations, and there is a group of people that are running that, and they want the United States of America. And there are people in this country, the Obama administration, Obama himself, Biden and his administration, not Biden so much because he really was not there in damn near the whole 4 years. But the people around Biden want to join this globalist movement. And we just can't have that. It moves us away from having our own culture, having our own borders, having our own country, having our own system of government, having our own constitutional republic. That's the big picture. That's where the tension is. It's globalism versus, and I'll use the word nationalism, which, the left has made, use the word nationalism. It's a bad word. It's not a bad word. It means that you're patriotic, you love your country, and you want it to be the United States of America based on our Constitution. That's all nationalism is. It doesn't some crazy thing that these people have made it out to be. So I think your audience, and frankly the American people, need to understand that we are facing that, and that means that these people want to move us towards a Marxist form of government. Very real. All you got to do is look at what's going on up in New York City right now with Zoran Mamdani, who, by all rights, he could end up becoming the New York City mayor.
Yeah, and he can't even bench press. We'll have that story later. But General Flynn, curious, I mean, obviously you're still passionate about being the national security, about getting away from globalism. And, seeing as all and more is coming to light about Russian collusion, which is really at the root of what sabotaged your original role in the Trump administration as a national security advisor. With Rubio serving as an interim, like if the president were ever to come to you and ask you to return to that critical role after everything you've been through, is that something you would consider, or are you happy with the positions you have in DC as it is now?
Well, I mean, I like what I'm able to do now because I have a lot more flexibility, and I don't have to worry about the talking points that are issued in the morning that what the government's going to do or not to do. And I think we have a really good team in there that the president has brought in, and he's stuck with them, which is good. I think that's a strong thing because he learned a lot of lessons from his first administration because there was a lot of pressure to get rid of different people, last couple of months here. Would I consider it out? Yeah, I absolutely would consider it. It's just not something right now. I think the direction and frankly, like you always, when you're in government, especially at the levels that we're talking about, the president, the White House, the Oval Office, at that level, you don't just rely on people inside the government. If you did, you would fail. And you would rely on people outside the government who have a level of expertise and knowledge and insight that can help and that are willing to help. And that's kind of the role that I'm playing right now. And I actually love being in that kind of a role because it allows me, like I said, great flexibility. I am very humbled by anyone that reaches out to say, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? And I'm not here looking for anything. What I'm here is to try to help save our country from this group that wants to turn our country into a Marxist socialist form of government. I mean, it's hard. It's hard for most Americans, to fathom that because the propaganda media that we've had for forever has just been pounded it into at least half. Think about it. Whatever the numbers were, that voted for Kamala Harris. 35 million people in our country voted for Kamala Harris, or 40 million people. You think about that and you say, they must have not been paying attention to anything, right? And
either that or those numbers aren't accurate, which is also a very real possibility.
Yeah, I just had this conversation with somebody here because that's one of the things that I am involved in is I'm involved in election integrity issues for the country. And we just had a great conversation. And I honestly think that if we had a very fair election system put in place, the Democrat Party would lose everywhere. They would lose everywhere because the Democrat Party is dead. It is gone. It has now been usurped or taken over by the Democrat Socialist Party of America, which means Marxism. So Mamdani, as an example, AOC, who's backing him, they are card-carrying members of the Democratic Socialist Party of America, the DSPA. I mean, that's real. It's very real. It's been around since the 60s. So Americans don't know this stuff because we think Democrats and Republicans, big government, little government, lower taxes, higher taxes. No, we have completely shifted to a different set of competitive ideologies, one of which is whether or not you love America and you believe in America and you believe in the Constitution. And we can argue and debate about how that should take shape. And another is no Constitution, and we move towards socialism and Marxism. Those are the two ends of the spectrum, and that's where we stand right now in 2025. And Donald J. Trump has 3.5 years left to do as much as he can to really, to destroy or crush the deep state, to get this out of our system of, it's like we have a sickness in our government because when we say the deep state is made up of a lot of these people, a lot of them. I'm telling you that, here in Washington, D.C., probably 3/4 to, I would say even closer to 85 to 90% of our government, of our federal government, are part of this deep state. And that means, it's not just a few people at the top. It's not just a dozen people. It is damn near the entirety because of the culture that has been created for the last, 20 years here, right? I mean, Trump's first administration, he did great just doing the things that he did. But look at how much of a beating he took and all the people around him took. So as if he didn't have to take a beating, imagine what this man could do, not just for the United States of America, but for the world. Look at what he's already done for world peace in various parts of the world. India and Pakistan as an example, right? So, and what he's trying to do in Europe, what he did in the Middle East. So all that said, I want people to understand that this country is not going to just float along and everything's going to be rosy unless we, the people, take a greater responsibility and get involved. Basically, we are citizens in this country. We have a responsibility to be good citizens, and we need to get involved to be even better citizens. And that's my sort of call to action.
Yeah, always the call to action to get involved locally where you can make the biggest impact. But as you said, this deep state has been a sickness on our nation and allowed us to move further into globalism and just leftist control. So Bolton has been raided. Who do you think should be next, or who do you think's on the radar?
I'd be fine if it was Obama, Comey, Brennan, Clapper, but I think we're getting close to those individuals where we're going to start to see, some indictments come down for these people. I think the same is going to happen to Bolton. I think Bolton's going to have to. They must have him dead to rights, as they do Comey, Clapper, Brennan, Obama, Hillary Clinton. I mean, there's a number of people down that totem pole. Susan Rice, maybe even people in Trump's former Trump administration when he was the 45th president. Could have people like Rosenstein's name hasn't popped up. Sally Yates is another one. I mean, so. There's a lot of people, and one thing I'd leave you with is that there are whistleblowers that have come forward, and they're doing their constitutional duty to basically get in there and say, hey, they observed these activities, and these activities in some cases are crimes. And so the thing about Bolton in the lead up to the investigation of some of this other stuff with Russiagate. All of a sudden, lo and behold, there's John Bolton sharing information, right? So these are the kinds of things that they're going to find when they start to really dig into these things that frankly, Tulsi Gabbard, good for Tulsi. There's no gray area when it comes to Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of National Intelligence, is black or white, right? That you're right or you're wrong. And in her case, she's the right person at the right moment in U.S. history. And thank God that Trump put her into that role, because I'm not sure had he put somebody else in that role, they would have done the digging that she's been doing. So good on her for doing what she's doing to expose not just corruption, but criminal activity. I mean, these are crimes these are conspiratorial crimes to subvert the United States of America. That's what they are. Very, very serious charges. And so somebody's going to have to be held to account for these.
Yeah, well, I think we're all very encouraged that if you were asked, you would greatly consider getting back into the fold with people like Gabbard, potentially in your former NSA position or whatever they would ask you to get involved with. We know you're there. We feel better about you being in DC. But just to wrap up again, because we are on Lindell TV, which we're super passionate about election integrity, do you think that we'll get to see any more being done moving forward than Trump's already been putting out there as far as getting rid of the machines and mail-in ballots?
Yeah, good. And I think I'm a big fan of Mike Lindell, and I really, Mike has been a huge hero for this country. So to answer your question, yes, I think if people felt like the exposure of what we have learned from Russiagate is a big deal, and it is. It's essentially as both Tulsi and Trump said, they staged a coup. They committed treason. Those were their words. I think what's going to be even bigger is what is going to be exposed for the theft of the 2020 election, and then the setup of J6. I think what people are going to see come out from that is just going to be outrageous. And the American people have every right to be upset and have every right to demand that we have our elections completely cleaned up and we run a very fair, and I think that's what's going to happen.
You anticipate that those being the next bombshells sometime soon?
I do. Yes, I do. Absolutely. I think we're going to see something come out on the 2020 election, an election integrity type of report or election system report, and it's going to touch on the 2020 election. It's going to touch on a lot of things, and there were people directly involved in undermining our ability to be able to have a free and fair vote, to include foreign countries.
Wow. Well, General Flynn, I know you've been very generous with your time. We got to let you get back to what you're doing in D.C., but make sure you keep us in the loop and let us know when we can anticipate more action, because that's what everyone wants. We just want to see the action. It's like, we know a lot. Let's see things happen. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Christy. God bless. Thanks for your patience.
You too. I'll see you next time. All right. We're going to have Kara coming up next real quick, but just want to pitch real quick, since we were talking about the importance of election integrity and how Mike Lindell has been at the forefront of this. The biggest way you can show support is, of course, pray for him. But beyond that, you can do some shopping. Go to mypillow.com, promo code KL, and you can get discounts. There's so much to choose from there. And it might seem silly. We're talking about huge things. We're talking about Russia collusion. We're talking about election integrity and holding people evil accountable. And I'm telling you to go shopping. But this is what this man needs. He needs support he's on the go always, Mike Lindell. So if you can get yourself some towels or some sheets or, of course, a My Pillow, do that. He's adding other products. We're becoming big fans of the Rev 7 energy drinks that have no caffeine in them, yet can pump you up full of energy. We need energy to win this fight. So check that out. Go to mypillow.com, use promo code KL, and support what Mike Lindell is doing to clean up this country, protect us from Marxism and globalism, as General Flynn was just saying. All right. With that, as General Flynn also touched upon this visit, how important that is from Korea and Trump being in a position of strength. We want to get updates on that, as well as the executive order signed today in the Oval Office. And Kara, she is on it. She is always there in DC. She's live there in DC with the latest on these two major events today. Kara, what can you tell us?
Hey, Christy, how are you today? That was a great interview with General Flynn, by the way. A huge fan of General Flynn, so glad to know he's here in D.C. But today, President Trump met with, and we're actually waiting, I don't think he's left yet, with the president of South Korea. As you know, President Lee Jae-myung. Oh, he just left, we heard. So he had just left a about 5 minutes ago. We tried to get some pictures as he was leaving. They had a lunch. They obviously took questions from the media. This is the South Korean President Lee Jae-myung, and he's the newly elected leader who assumed office only in June. And he was here at the White House today for their first in-person summit. And they talked about a lot of things like trade measures, defense coordination. South Korea reaffirmed its commitment to invest around $150 billion in U.S. shipbuilding under the slogan, Make America Shipbuilding Great Again, or MASHKA, I think people were calling it. Discussions were also focused on the U.S. military presence and collective security. A lot of people don't know that technically North Korea and South Korea are still at war, that the war never ended, and there is still a U.S. military presence there of about 28,000 to 29,000 U.S. troops there in the United States. So President Trump obviously trying to get South Korea to pay a little bit more towards these defense and having these troops there, which is obviously a benefit to the U.S. as well. It's sort of a deterrent with China and North Korea, but still, I think that of about $5 billion to $10 billion estimated cost, South Korea is only paying $1 billion. So the president, obviously, I'm assuming, would like to see them pay more. And this has been something that he has said in the past. We do have a clip to share where the president of South Korea pretty much agreed that when the country was, being run by Joe Biden, or the Autopan rather, it was not safe for anyone in the world, and that includes South Korea. And he basically agreed with President Trump that the North Korean government would not have been able to make as much advancement when it comes to nuclear weapons as would have had President Trump been in office. Please take a listen.
Mr. President, you mentioned about Chairman Kim, and thanks to your efforts when you were in office during your first term, the situation on the Korean Peninsula was stable. But during the hiatus where you were out of office, North Korea developed further its nuclear and missile capabilities, and that led to a deterioration on the situation of the Korean Peninsula.
And they wouldn't have done that. They would not have done that if I were president. It
내가
was not going to
만약에
happen.
대통령이 당선되었다면 그런 일이 일어나지 않았을 것입니다.
전적으로 공감합니다.
I completely agree with you.
One of the things we're trying to do with Russia and with China is denuclearization. And it's very important. One of the things I discussed with President Putin the other day, it wasn't just that, it was also other things. And I think the denuclearization is it's a big aim, but Russia's willing to do it, and I think China's going to be willing to do it too. We can't let nuclear weapons proliferate. We have to stop nuclear weapons. The power is too great.
So yeah, we play that second clip as well, where the president was talking about with getting rid of nuclear weapons, obviously for China and Russia, or at least scaling that back some. That was a question from another reporter after that compliment that was paid to him by the South Korean president.
Excellent. And is that the main stuff that came out of that meeting so far? Is he gone? Has he left?
He's left, and the main stuff that's come out is that, these two are really intent on obviously coming to trade agreements. Really, the shipbuilding deal was huge. Make American shipbuilding great again. Obviously, South Korea has a really great economy and a facility for building ships. And also talking about security in terms of North Korea and the fear that South Korea has that North Korea is rapidly being able to build their nuclear arsenal. So that's a concern. And the president obviously is aware of that, but that was something that was discussed today as well. So it was a good meeting. I think both men have a lot of respect for each other. The South Korean president was really lavishing President Trump with a lot of praise, and I think that the feeling was mutual. So this seems like it's going to work well for both countries in terms of trade deals and in terms of that shipbuilding deal as well.
It's always interesting because you have the legacy media figures always constantly saying like, oh, we're losing their respect globally. Like no one has respect for the U.S. anymore, but he just continues to make these things happen. He's constantly meeting with other leaders and so far so good. So I don't know if they're just trying to make that narrative stick or what. But these are the same people that have an issue with making DC streets safer. like they're like, how
It
dare
is.
you make our streets safer? We want more murders. I don't know. These people are. And on that note, what is he's continuing to keep the eye on the ball when it comes to DC and continuing to make that safer, right?
It definitely, and this was posted, reshared today by Caroline Levitt. If you guys could pull that post up, that was on X, really just touting the administration's accomplishments when it comes to decreasing crime. According to the administration, violent crime is down 23%, carjackings are down 86%, homicides are down 60%. Robberies down 47%, assault with dangerous weapons down 18%, property crime is down 16%, and there have been zero murders since President Trump, took action to send in these federal troops to assist the local Metro PD here in Washington, D.C. So this is all good news, especially for, I think, the local residents and anybody here that works in Washington, D.C., who are so concerned with crime, even though, like you said, you wouldn't really hear that from the leftist media. I speak to people every day, and everybody is concerned about safety here. They are concerned about crime. It would be really hard to find somebody, I think, in certain neighborhoods to get on the record and say that they want more cops, because then they would possibly lose street cred. But I think that the majority of families, mothers, and women here in D.C. very strongly feel that more cops are needed and more law enforcement is needed to protect the citizens of Washington, D.C. We also have a soundbite of President Trump talking about those same accomplishments today in the Oval Office when he was signing some executive orders, which we could get into next. Here's President Trump listing, again, some of the accomplishments of the Trump administration as part of his historic effort to make Washington, D.C. safe again.
So we had all of these things, 439 illegal alien criminals have been removed, and we have 6 known gang members, some of the worst leaders of gangs anywhere in the country, MS-13 and Tren de Aragua. We have 2 missing children that have been recovered. They thought they were gone. We brought them back to the family. The family started crying. They couldn't believe that they saw their child again. 49 homeless encampments have been removed. Like, we have the head of South Korea coming in a little while, the president, and he drives down the street. Already, his people have told me, he said, what happened? It's so clean. We always came here, it was filthy dirty with homeless and papers all over the road. That's the other thing. Those roads are swept immaculate, but they're going to be much better in a few months when we put a topping on them. They're going to look like they're brand new. We'll get rid of those rusty old medians that have been crashed into 1,000 times, and they don't fix them. They just let them. They lay them down on the road, and they sit there for months. But we don't do that. We don't run things. We run things like we run this. We like clean, we like beautiful, and we like safe, and that's what we're getting.
Yes, we do. We like safe. And I'm sure you like it being safer there as well, right, Kira?
Yeah, for sure. It definitely feels good to walk around in D.C. and know that there have been 0 murders in the past 2 weeks. That is definitely good news. And speaking of those executive orders that the president was signing, there was a much anticipated executive order to get rid of cashless bail, to start the fight against getting rid of cashless bail, which has been obviously such a topic in the past couple of election cycles. Cashless bail in New York and Chicago and all these crime-ridden cities where they literally release criminals right back onto the street, violent criminals. So here's President Trump talking about this executive order that he signed today in the Oval Office, taking steps to crack down on cashless bail. Take a listen.
Okay, let's go. Could I
Yes, sir.
ask you to say exactly what this is?
Of course. So as you've consistently identified, sir, cashless bail policies are a key driver of the disorder we see on city streets all over America. Catch and release system allows criminals to keep going back out onto the street and reoffending. What this executive order does, it charges your attorney general with identifying jurisdictions all over the country that have cashless bail policies, and then it withholds or revokes federal funds and grants that are flowing to those jurisdictions to ensure that we're only supporting the people who have reasonable common sense policies around crime.
So what area does it cover?
Potentially anywhere that has a cashless bail policy. So some of the largest cities, some of the most left-wing states in America
Almost
have adopted.
all of them, right?
Illinois would be a great example of
Yeah.
that, sir.
Oh, they have a great cashless bail. You don't even have to go to court sometimes. No, Illinois, I love that state. It's a great state, but it's run so badly by Pritzker. They threw him out of the family business, and he becomes governor. Now he wants to run for president. I don't think that's going to happen. Okay, we'll sign right here, right?
Sir.
So important. And this isn't Republican, Democrat. This is, and by the way, most Democrats agree with us. But this is just, we got to bring our country back. Okay?
Sometimes you wonder which Democrats President Trump is talking to, because it seems like there are so many Democrats that are just committed to being opposite of whatever Trump is saying or doing, no matter how much common sense it means.
Yes, definitely, Christy. And then there was another executive order signed today, which I found to be rather interesting, regarding prosecuting those who burn the American flag. This one I have mixed feelings on because I'm a free speech absolutist, but this executive order declares the U.S. flag the most sacred and cherished symbol of American identity, unity, and freedom, deserving of protection and respect. It characterizes flag desecration, especially burning, as a provocative act conveying contempt, hostility, and potential incitement to violence or riot. Legal justification and approach of the Trump administration is taking with this is this order explicitly the Supreme Court in 1989. That was Texas v. Johnson. That was a decision which held in a 5-4 ruling that flag burning is protected symbolic speech under the First Amendment. However, it asserts that flag desecration still may be prosecuted, this is the Trump executive order now, if it constitutes, quote unquote, imminent lawless action or, quote unquote, fighting words which are not protected, and directives to the Attorney General and the DOJ to prioritize enforcement of criminal and civil laws against acts of flag desecration that are content yet cause harm beyond mere expression, such as violent crime, hate crime, property damage, or civil right violations, and various other ways that they could, I guess, prosecute people, Christy, for burning the American flag. Like I said, this has been decided by the Supreme Court in 2 decisions, actually, that is actually constitutionally protected speech to burn an American flag. The Trump administration is trying to find, I guess, backdoor ways to prosecute people for burning it, like fighting words. I'm not sure what your opinion is on this, but this is a very interesting case. I think that will, again, possibly be brought to the Supreme Court and decided again if burning the flag is constitutionally, if that's protected under the First Amendment, rather.
Well, it makes you wonder what the motivating factors are for signing an executive order related to that at such a time as this. I mean, we've seen a lot of this happen and a lot of the protests, but I feel like it hasn't happened as recently. So I don't know. It seems like interesting timing to make this a priority. And yes, I mean, on the basis of that, this would be an uphill climb with the Supreme Court, as it should, because we have to fiercely protect speech or demonstrations that we don't agree with on principle.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I'm not sure. I don't see it sticking. Let me say that.
Right, I don't either. And a lot of people, would make the argument, I guess, as to what precedent that this might set.
Yes.
What precedent, like what would be considered, what would be banned next? Would it be saying, we lived through the Biden administration where incitement to violence was saying that a vaccine was not safe. Like literally that was called an incitement or violence or endangering your neighbor because you don't want to be vaccinated. So it doesn't set a good precedent. Obviously, I'm not one who believes that any type of good person would burn the American flag. My father is a Vietnam veteran that died for the United States, but I'll never forget something that a soldier once told me a long time ago. I'd say about 10 years ago, I was talking to a Marine and he said, I literally went to war to give those people the right to burn the flag. And that is free speech absolutist speaking. And I sort of agree with that notion. So I don't know, it should be interesting to see where this decision goes and where this executive order goes and why it's being signed right now.
Yeah, I think First Amendment trumps all, especially when we see what's happening in Europe, people being arrested for thinking, for praying outside of abortion clinics there in the UK. It blows your mind. So anything that threatens our speech, I just think is sacred. And so we don't like it. Of course we don't like people doing that, but we're not really supposed to. It's supposed to protect things that other people don't like. For the freedom to be able to just to be free. I mean, let's just break it down to its biggest core. We're free, so like we have to be very limited on things that involve expression and speech, and trying to control that. So yeah, I'm with you, but maybe we'll wait, see what we hear, and maybe there was something in particular that inspired it to happen at this particular time, and so we'll just have to keep an eye on it. But we know that you will. Anything else that you wanted to share, Kara?
I know it's an eventful day so far. Like I said, the Korean president just left, South Korean president left. We're still waiting, obviously, on any sign that executive order is going to happen regarding election integrity.
Yes.
The president has a full week with a intelligence briefing, I believe, on the schedule for tomorrow or Wednesday. More executive orders to be signed as well.
We know
So
General
we'll just
Flynn
keep
is
keeping
right
you
there
updated.
and is passionate about this.
General Flynn is
So
in
just
DC,
maybe.
of course. Like we'll try to. Yeah, of course. General Flynn is in the vicinity of DC, which is always good news, Christy.
Yeah, so we'll be keeping an eye on it and letting you all know as soon as we know. Thank you so much, Kira.
Thanks, Christy. Have a good show.
Thanks. Coming up, we have more on election security, how important that is, and what we're keeping an eye on. But quick reminder, we want you to be part of our programming and what we decide to focus on, who we talk to. So come on. Join our editorial board. You can send us your news tips and ideas. You can send us, hey, I know somebody you should definitely talk to. Just email those things to news@lindelltv.com. That's news@lindelltv.com. And we would so appreciate you getting involved. We want this to be our show, not the show, but ours, including you. We're so blessed to have this free speech platform. We were talking about the importance of free speech and not censoring others. So we want you to get in on the action and let us know, hey, I feel like this is being on the down low, or I feel like this is being censored. And we're going to do our best to amplify it, because that's what good journalists should do. So news@lindelltv.com. Also, if you want to try and connect with us personally and have conversations about the latest that's coming out, we really want to encourage people to join the platform Vocal. It's VOCL, Vocal. Very easy to sign up. And, sometimes things like X are not always reliable when it comes to whether or not other people see your posts or anything like that. We want it to be unfiltered on Vocal as well. Another passion project from Mike Lindell. So make sure you get signed up and connect with us personally there on Vocal. You can actually even watch the shows there live and streaming just as they come on. So what are you waiting for? Get signed up there on vocal.com. All right, quick break and we'll be back in a moment.
The last time President Trump was in office, gold soared 50% and silver went up a huge 53%. Americans who invested in silver and gold during Donald Trump's first presidency are very happy that they did it. And right now, gold continues to soar to the highest numbers in history. These gains are just an appetizer for what's to come. Some market analysts are saying that gold is predicted to rise another 30% in the next year alone. So now's the time to invest in gold and silver, and that's why I partnered with Fisher Liberty Gold. Fisher Liberty Gold is a conservative-owned and operated precious metals investment company. They even helped my good friend President Trump get elected through their contributions to Turning Point USA and other conservative groups. I have dedicated my life to ensuring that people get the best sleep ever. And in addition to owning a MyPillow, I can now sleep well at night knowing that you can all protect your savings with precious metals with Fisher Liberty Gold. With Fisher Liberty Gold, you can sleep well knowing that your retirement is secure. And if you call now, you're going to receive your very own presidential gold guide and qualify for up to $20,000 in free silver. But wait, there's more. Call now or text metals to 26786 to receive your presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty. And for a limited time, I will send you a free MyPillow for qualified accounts. This presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty will tell you exactly why you need to own gold even while Donald Trump is president. And just by calling in, you get a free MyPillow for a limited time for qualified accounts. and up to $20,000 in free silver. So don't wait. Call 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text MEDALS to 26786 today. That's 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text MEDALS to 26786 today to receive your free MyPillow and up to $20,000 in free silver.
President Trump is demanding the immediate release of Tina Peters, a former Mesa County clerk sentenced to 9 years for 2020 election interference, calling her a brave patriot who caught Democrat fraud. She basically got caught catching the Democrats cheating. So that's the truth. On the True Social, Trump's threatening harsh measures if she's not freed. And we're keeping an eye on this because we love Tina Peters and she is a brave patriot who is just trying to save evidence. And now they put those evildoers, they put her behind bars. Attorney Sidney Powell says Peters is a material witness in a federal investigation and she should be taken into protective federal custody immediately. General Flynn, who we just had on, shared Sidney Powell's post saying not only is Tina Peters a hero and she did the right thing, she is a woman of historic consequence. Her actions to save the republic and the results of what she exposed will be recognized for generations to come as an act of extraordinary courage. Now, I'm reading into this a bit, his post about that, in light of that just moments ago when we wrapped up our interview, he says, if you think that the Russian collusion exposure, that hoax being exposed is big, and it is, he said. Just wait till you see what is coming when it comes to elections and what we'll find out about January 6th. So we're definitely going to be keeping in touch and finding out when that can come out. It sounded like it's coming out soon. So encouraging to hear that from General Flynn. And it also kind of gives a new flavor to that tweet about, or that exposed, I should say, about Tina Peters and how she will be recognized. Again, sharing that post from Sidney Powell saying that she should be brought into protective custody for exposing what she was able to expose as a witness to this, what we know as being a very fraudulent 2020 election. In other election security news, DOJ says Smartmatic funneled LA County money into slush funds, and federal prosecutors revealed that Smartmatic executives diverted taxpayer money from a $282 million Los Angeles County voting contract into secret slush funds linked to overseas bribery schemes. This bombshell comes as Smartmatic sues Fox News, while its own executives face corruption and money laundering indictments in Florida. And so election integrity advocates like our very own Mike Lindell have warned for years foreign voting machine companies cannot be trusted with American democracy. And again, having just had General Flynn on, he did mention in the exposure that is coming that it does have to do with foreign entities as well. So we just got to put all those puzzle pieces together. Either way, you can read that article over on LindellTV.com. LindellTV.com. Make sure you're following there for the articles that are put up. So what is the status of draining the swamp? Well, according to Rasmussen reports, nearly 2/3 of likely U.S. voters, 62% to be exact, are still all in on President Trump's call to drain the swamp in Washington, D.C., with 46% strongly agreeing. But here's the kicker. Voters are split on how he's doing so far, and some, like Democrats defending folks they once blasted, like John Bolton, show that there's no integrity in the swamp's defense. I mean, can you imagine? Like, no, we don't want the swamp drained. Keep it really extra swampy there in D.C., So shocking, but while draining the swamp may take some time, cleaning up the crime surrounding it is going swiftly. We just heard the new executive order that is going to remove cashless bail. He's continuing to keep an eye and prioritizing the safety there in DC. The city just went 9 days without a homicide. Actually, I think it's been even longer than that since this article ran. Yeah, see, this is from the 22nd. So now it's like, what, up to 12 days without a homicide. So this is a big win under President Trump's crime crackdown, that according to Yahoo News. Violent crime is trending down, with federal law enforcement making 77 arrests and seizing 10 guns in a recent operation, probably more since then. Talk about cleaning up the Capitol. It's getting done. And CNN characterizes the cleanup as a slight dip in crime. Like, what would it take for them to say, like, yeah, crime's really been reduced? No, but they're saying moderate drop in crime. But here's the headliner. Immigration arrests skyrocketed, with 135 of 308 total arrests targeting undocumented immigrants. And speaking of illegals, ICE, well, they just detained Democrat sweetheart Kilmar Abrego Garcia, their sweetheart that's an alleged MS-13 gang member, after he reported to their field office, as reported by a federal judge, and that's according to the Post-Millennial. This comes after a Tennessee judge freed him from jail, but now he faces deportation to Uganda. So what's going on there? He could have gone back to his home. El Salvador was his home, but now he's facing deportation to Uganda because the Democrats, they had to save him from his own place that he was born. Well, now look what's going on. Well, coming up, we have some big Maha news to report that's very encouraging, so stick around for that. But first, let's take a quick break, and I'll be back with that news and more about fake news, actually. So stay right here.
Whether it's being a weekend warrior or spending time with your family, feeling your best is the key to doing the things you love. That's why I'm excited to tell you about Nirvanta. It's a natural solution designed to help you stay active and live well naturally. Nirvanta is a topical blend of all natural essential oils like frankincense, myrrh, and a proprietary gold standard plant stock extract. It's perfect for your hands, feet, knees, back, or anywhere else that needs a little extra care. Use Nirvanta proactively as part of your daily maintenance routine, and you're guaranteed you're going to feel the difference. Simply massage Nirvanta in for at least 60 seconds, 2 to 3 times a day to get the best results. And if you're not completely satisfied, you get your money back. No questions asked. There's simply no risk and no reason not to try Nirvanta today. Right now, you get 15% off with code Lindell exclusively at nirvantahealth.com. So stop reaching out for that medicine cabinet. Get Nirvanta instead and experience the difference. Go to nirvantahealth.com. Use code Lindell to get 15% off today. Nirvanta Health. Live well naturally.
Welcome to Vocal, the free speech social app that gives you a platform to amplify your voice. Speak freely, connect boldly, and be part of a growing movement for truth, faith, and freedom. Want to know what's happening right now? The Now Playing feature shows you exactly who's live and what's streaming in real time. Check out the show's feed, a non-stop lineup including Lindell TV News 24/7, shows and on-demand programming all in one place. Connect with your favorite host and never miss a show. Explore the featured page for quick access to Lindell TV's top shows. Follow your favorites and watch their newest content flow right into your feed. And when they go live on Vocal, you can join the live chat and be part of the action. Ask questions, share your thoughts, even help shape future shows. Stay informed on issues around securing our elections by following your state's Cause of America account. Join a group and connect on a deeper level, from faith and freedom to the future of our nation. Go to vocal.com or download the app today and be a part of the mission to save our country.
Even as those ratings nosedive, even as people like Stephen Colbert are fired, the old dog of fake news media, they just cannot learn new tricks. And President Trump, well, he wants stiff penalties for those propaganda puppets. He truthed this. Take a look at this truth. He says, Despite a very high popularity and, according to many, among the greatest 8 months in presidential history, ABC and NBC fake news, two of the worst and most biased networks in history, give me 97% bad stories. This is laughable. This is insane. If that is the case, they are simply an arm of the Democrat Party and should, according to many, have their licenses revoked by the FCC. I would be totally in favor of that because they are so biased and untruthful, an actual threat to our democracy. I love that last bit, an actual threat to our democracy, because if we want to talk about actual threats to our democracy, you know, things like trying to keep a candidate off of the ballot, trying to only give us propaganda through the fake news media, Project Mockingbird. I mean, it's so maddening that this is always their narrative, like, oh, this isn't that or the other is a threat to our democracy. Well, they are the ones that are actually doing things to threaten our democracy. And before you correct me and be like, Christy, we're a republic, why are you repeating that? Well, yes, we are a republic. We're a democratic republic. But yes, even that itself, I will agree with you, is silly when they say threat to our democracy. They really want to make it stick that we are just a democracy. No, we are a democratic republic. But yes, I'm with you on that. Trump has always been very right about the fake news. But if we're being fair and unbiased and not just worshiping Trump, we will admit that he has been very wrong on those death jabs, right? And is there hope that he will get on board after always saying like, oh, Operation Warp Speed was great? Is there hope that he will get on board to pull those? Can he redeem himself here? Because we would all love to see it, right? Well, big news from Marianne Damazi's latest Substack. A new analysis shows a shocking spike in fetal loss linked to COVID-19 vaccines in early pregnancy, raising serious red flags about their safety. Just one thing among so many red flags, right? This has experts like Dr. James Thorpe calling for the shots to be pulled from the market until more data is studied. And there is a sweeping vaccine review under this ACIP group. Well, a top advisor to RFK Jr.'s health agenda claims the Trump administration will pull COVID-19 vaccines from the U.S. market within months. Wish it didn't take even more months, but within months is better than where we were before, right? He's citing growing concerns over injuries like myocarditis. The Daily Caller reports it's Dr. Asim Malhotra says influential Trump family members share that skepticism about the safety that is backed by a 2022 study showing high risks of adverse events from mRNA shots. This comes amid RFK Jr. canceling $500 million in mRNA funding, and, of course, facing criticism from over 750 health officials for allegedly spreading misinformation linked to a recent CDC shooting. I did personally confirm with Dr. Asim Malhotra earlier today that this is something that they're working on. In fact, so busy working on this and a review of some other pharmaceutical things of interest, we'll say, that he is unable to come on just yet, but will be coming on within, I would say, a couple of weeks. So yes, they are doing what they can on this effort to try and get those shots pulled, which I know so many of us are most passionate about, right? But in the meantime, why don't we laugh at the weakness of Democrats? We can always do that. There's no shortage of evidence when it comes to that topic, right? Check out this hilarious flop from Brooklyn's annual Men's Day event. Mayoral frontrunner Zohran Mamdani, who we were talking about, his very unfunny desire to make us a socialist communist country, usher in globalism. Well, that 33-year-old socialist Dem nominee, he tried to show off by bench pressing 135 pounds, but he totally bombed. He needed help for just 2 reps. Watch this. Let's watch and laugh.
Yeah. Let's go. Yeah. Let me get one more. Let me get three. Let me get three. Let me get three. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. These guys, they need testosterone boost. Maybe they should be talking to RFK Jr. on what they can do to get their manlyhood back. If it was guys like that that were wanting to join women's sports, maybe we wouldn't have an issue. Just kidding. That's just a joke aside. But speaking of weak Democrats, instead of focusing on his own crumbling state, as predicted, Newsome has his eyes on 2028. He thinks his greasy, slick back hair will get him to the top, right? California Governor Gavin Newsom running fundraising campaigns all over the internet. He's targeting folks outside of his home state because his home state would know better, I'm guessing. He's targeting people outside. And he's talking about this redistricting to save democracy, pulling in small donations, just, build his national profile. He's even hitting the road with speeches in South Carolina, a prime Democratic primary spot, fueling speculation about a presidential bid. Critics say it's all denied by his team. Why wouldn't they lie? But polls show him leading with a 24% shot at the nomination ahead of AOC and Buttigieg. Well, when that's your competition, then of course it would be too hard to get to the top, right? All that according to Daily Wire. Just wanted to give you a heads up to beware of those schools. I'll have more on that tomorrow because it looks like my time is quickly winding down here. So I guess I will have to cover some things to be aware of when it comes to sending those kids back to school, some wild things continuing to happen there. So stay tuned for that for tomorrow. But keep it locked in here for Lindell's White House coverage. We've got more to come with Spin Room with Vanessa Broussard coming up right after this. And Kara Castronova staying on top of that major meeting and the executive orders coming out. Allison's at work as well. So don't go anywhere. We've got so much for you. I'm Christy Lee, and that's your DC Dispatch.